Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our public launch of a critical new initiative for the region of southeastern Wisconsin. I would go so far to say as this is a major and momentous event. I'm Mark Money, Chancellor of UW-Milwaukee, and I'll serve as moderator. Before we get started, here's an overview of many of the things that you're going to hear today, along with a few housekeeping notes. First of all, I'd like to describe, we will describe the Moonshot initiative itself, how collaborative it is, what our key goals are, and the greatest areas of expected impact. You're going to hear from members of the media, we encourage you to submit questions through the Q&A button that's located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I would ask all our participants to keep your mics muted until it's your turn to speak. So now, big picture, what is the Moonshot initiative? What is this Moonshot for Equity that we're undertaking? In brief, the Moonshot is an initiative to advance college completion rates and eliminate equity gaps. Let me stress that again, eliminate, not reduce, not turn the corner, but absolutely eliminate. We have a premise that education should be available and beneficial to everyone, regardless of race, income, or first or second generation status. Each of the campuses that you'll hear from today is completely committed to this initiative. And we also want to continue all the work that we already have underway to close equity gaps in our region and add more. Wisconsin is the last in the country in terms of high school completion rate for Black students versus white students. And it's in the bottom 7 of all 50 states for Hispanic students. This is not a place that we want to be. Unfortunately, we know that those completion gaps continue into higher education. We find this unacceptable. So it's our collective goal to provide fair and equitable access to college and graduation for all our students. So Moonshot is going to get us there through 3 major strategies. Number 1, we will be implementing best practices, those that have been shown to work across a few campuses in the country that have eliminated the completion gap. And unfortunately, this is all too persistent, all too common in higher education today. So we're going to adopt those best practices with the aid of EAB, the Education Advisory Board. We have identified 15 game changers, things that are going to absolutely help us eliminate the barriers and obstacles to completion that will get us there. The second area is to embed change management and implementation techniques throughout our institutions. We know that change is not easy. It can't just be something that senior leaders say, we're going to do this. We, in fact, have embedded a number of different change practices and will be undertaking additional training and have a number of leaders at all levels of our organizations. And the third piece is to deploy technology to advance equity and reduce bias. There are so many different areas. I'll give a few examples shortly, but it's critical to use the technology platforms that the Education Advisory Board has been able to help develop, and all of us have adopted and will commit to. So some of you might say, well, why are you doing this as a region? Why are you doing this as a collective effort as opposed to just trying to continue the work that you're already doing? It's much more challenging than that. We know we need collective efforts. We know that there's power in the sharing of best practices. We know that there's great ideas in public, private, 2-year, 4-year institutions. And if we band together, we can make a much greater difference than any of us can do on our own. So what you're going to hear from today are the efforts of UW-Milwaukee, UW-Parkside, Carthage College, and Milwaukee Area Technical College, each representing a different sector across our region. In just a few minutes, you'll hear from my colleagues who will provide additional details on each of the Moonshot strategies. I want you to know we have all committed to work together with EAB, Education Advisory Board, to help underrepresented students, those of color, and other historically underserved populations. We want them to graduate at the same rate as all our students by 2030. That's an ambitious goal, but we think we can do it. How is it going to help the region? Well, in short, we have dealt for the last decade with one of the most vexing talent shortages, and we have left more people behind in this region than we'd ever like to see. So this is going to help employers, this is going to help the students, and ultimately it's going to help our region significantly in terms of opening the doors to prosperity, which we know is the foundation of education. How will it help students at our campus and others? Well, We've been working on these areas for some time, and I'm glad to say that we've had progress in retention and completion, but it's not at the rate we think we can make, but more importantly, it's not at the rate that we need to achieve. So I'm very pleased to see how many of our colleagues have undertaken and taken on this challenge, but I'll give you a few examples of what we see happening at the ground level for students. One example is much better defined pathways, transfer pathways, and transparent academic maps. It's all too common for students to start at any particular campus, but often at two-year campuses with a goal in mind to go on to get a four-year degree or a graduate degree, only to find that when they go to transfer, a number of those courses actually don't apply. They actually can't use that credit. With the academic maps and the technology that we'll have in place, that will be a much easier solve for our students, advisors, and overall campuses. I've talked earlier about change management, and I want to share with you one critically important element in the world that we're dealing with today. We've never had in modern times the social unrest, the upheavals, the activities that are occurring based on what we've seen exposed with respect to the inequities and gaps in our society. For that reason, we have taken this initiative on right now, and we know that we need to have equity skills training, and we need to take it to scale. It can't just be 3 people, 5 people, or some level of leadership. So we will have, as one of the first action imperatives, over 400 people that will participate in equity skill training across the region. And that, we think, will just lead to a snowball effect for a lot of other things to change our cultures, to really embed and embrace the practices that are so important to Moonshot. And the final piece, just to reiterate it because it's so important, we can't do this without technology. We have seen in any successful organization the use of platforms that enable advisors, faculty, and a number of others to be able to help students, as well as putting control into their hands in terms of monitoring, tracking, evaluating, and really continuing to reduce every single barrier that we identify today. So those are just a few of the areas of overview. I look forward to sharing with you the work of my wonderful colleagues, and I'll begin with Dr. Vicki Martin, the great leader of Milwaukee Area Technical College and dear friend. Vicki, please.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Really appreciate your comments, and it's an exciting day for all of us. When it comes to so many equity statistics, our region unfortunately shows up at the very bottom for measures of economic prosperity. We have some of the biggest gaps in education, health disparities, incarceration, income, job opportunities, and home ownership, just to name a few. Although these challenges can seem overwhelming, and sometimes it feels like we are facing this uphill battle alone, other regions, other institutes of higher education who have faced these similar challenges have persevered and succeeded, and we will as well. We know we can close our equity gaps in higher education across socioeconomic and racial demographics within our institutions and across our southeastern Wisconsin region. We aim to impact equity gaps as we scale up our efforts collectively. At METC, we often point to Georgia State University. If they can do it, so can we. College leaders there led the way to eliminate those equity gaps in graduation rates. And after a 2-year institution, Perimeter College became part of Georgia State and adopted the same practices and policies proven to close equity gaps. Perimeter started to see similar results, which gives us great hope. EAB was part of that Georgia success story, and by working with EAB, Carthage, UW-Milwaukee, UW-Parkside, and here at METC, we're collaborating to implement best practices, policies, and technologies proven to boost equity. As participating institutions, we have committed ourselves to implementing more than a dozen research-based strategies to remove those systemic and institutional barriers to student success. These range from updating academic policies to establishing common academic pathways and providing equity-mindedness training to educational leaders. And at METC, we've already started on this path. We've eliminated a high-stakes placement test that was proven to be ineffective. We provide our students with the right support to succeed in college-level courses. So instead of telling students with a high school diploma that they're not ready to come to college, we've decided to make ourselves college ready for our students. And we've organized all of our programs into academic and career pathways that connect our students to careers and those four-year opportunities. Our pathways provide students with student-centered support during their time with us. We have to keep working, though, to eliminate those equity gaps in course completion rates, retention, and graduation. And our regional partnership with Moonshot for Equity will help us move this work forward. By giving us access to the experts who have done the work, including Georgia State's Dr. Tim Rennick, by strengthening relationships with 3 institutions which our students can transfer and more, and by providing that technology that Dr. Moni mentioned, those technology resources that can assist us to help our students stay on track for success. We choose to participate in Moonshot for Equity, especially during these challenging and uncertain times during a COVID pandemic. As President John F. Kennedy said at Rice University in 1962, while he was addressing a host of major efforts, he said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win." It's the same for us. Now I want to introduce Dr. John Swallow, president of Carthage College, who will talk more about the importance of addressing these issues as a region. John?
Thank you, Vicki. One of the shibboleths of higher education is that every institution is so fundamentally different, that students at different colleges share so little in common by wealth or background, that our institutions can learn nothing from one another. That notion is false, and that notion is part of how we've perpetuated inequity. This regional partnership is a commitment to learn together, to share our progress with each other, and to hold each other accountable for the good of our students, for our institutions, and for this region. Generations ago, the Kenosha to Milwaukee region knew tremendous economic growth. But over time, this region has developed large disparities in educational attainment, employment, income, and wealth across racial and demographic lines. The Milwaukee metropolitan region has a 40,000 employee shortage in critical fields like business, engineering, healthcare, and IT. We need more college graduates for the employers in the economic hub of our state. Now we know that more Americans are going to college than ever before, but nationwide, barely half of Black and Latinx students earn their degrees within 6 years, compared to nearly 70% of white students. And for too long, we in higher education have believed that closing these gaps was impossible. Today, we know differently. Over the past decade, Georgia State, an early EAB partner, increased its graduation rate by 23 percentage points, eliminating race and income as predictors of college completion. We're committing to bring that success to Southeastern Wisconsin. Now, all 4 of our institutions have started on this work. You've already heard from Chancellor Moni about efforts at UWM and President Martin at MATC. At Carthage, our First in the Family program for first-generation students improved persistence from the first to the senior year by 7 percentage points. We're also taking steps to increase retention across the board. By revamping our Student Financial Services Office, we've increased our overall first to second year retention rate by 3 percentage points. We changed how and when we communicate with students, and we've understood more deeply how we can help them overcome their obstacles. But we have more to do, and we believe that a regional approach will work better than independent efforts by individual schools because we can learn from each other. The Moonshot for Equity partnership will generate more college graduates in less time, for less money, and with improved career outcomes for all students, regardless of socioeconomic or racial status. We know that this work is hard, and we know that only in stages can we go to the moon and plant a flag for equity. But we embark on this project because we were, each of us, founded to deliver on the promise of education, and that's exactly what we intend to do. Parkside Chancellor Debbie Ford will now speak more to how this initiative will transform our efforts and our institutions. Chancellor Ford.
Thank you, John, and good morning, everyone. The Moonshot for Equity positions Carthage College, UW-Parkside, UW-Milwaukee, and Milwaukee Area Technical College to transform how we deliver our mission, serve our students, and eliminate these persistent equity gaps. As leaders, we are seeking evolutionary, not revolutionary change, and thinking of ways and working to break through the status quo. Breakthroughs occur when decisions plus beliefs plus confidence are greater than emotions. We know that higher education is in a constant state of change, and we know that too few leaders receive formal training in change management and the equity-minded skills that we need to lead today. In the book, Good to Great, Jim Collins describes the difference between level 4 and level 5 leaders. Level 4 leaders are committed to the pursuit of a clear and compelling vision. Level 4 leaders are very good leaders and they get things done. But level 5 leaders have conviction. They are ambitious for the cause, not themselves, and they have the will to do whatever it takes to make good on that ambition. The leaders of the Moonshot for Equity are indeed level 5 leaders. We are committed to working together to eliminate persistent equity gaps in college completion. At UW-Parkside, participating in the Moonshot for Equity builds on our shared vision for student success and positions us to achieve our bold goal of increasing the number of graduates by 50% annually by 2025. We are graduating the most students in our history at UW-Parkside, and I know we will and we can do better. To lead the change on our campuses, we look forward to participating in the Moonshot for Equity Leadership Institute, where we will gain a common understanding of leadership and change management fundamentals, equity skills training at scale. We will receive an understanding of the higher education ecosystem through this equity lens. We will learn more about driving change and motivating our teams while leveraging the strength of our faculty, staff, students, and the community and regional support. And we will build a data-informed culture and ensure accountability as we work together. As we focus on leading change, we hope to see over this next decade. I am reminded of another passage from one of my favorite authors, John Cotter, and he reminds us, and I quote, "Leadership is about setting a direction. It's about creating a vision, empowering and inspiring people who want to achieve this vision, and enabling them to do so with energy and speed through an effective strategy. In its most basic sense, leadership is about mobilizing a group of people to jump into a better future." End quote. The Moonshot for Equity will build a better future for students today and tomorrow, especially for those who have been left behind. Before turning this over to Latoya, I want to say thank you to EAB, to our partners at Houston GPS and Georgia State for paving the way for this work, and of course to my colleagues at Carthage College, MATC, and UWM. We believe in the Milwaukee region, and we join together today for the Moonshot for Equity. Now I'd like to introduce EAB Senior Director Latoya White to talk more about EAB's role in the partnership and the role that technology will play as we embark on this new journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ford. Technology is going to be a key component that powers the Moonshot for Equity across the Milwaukee region. It is going to be that thing that creates and mobilizes the necessary structure and consistency across each campus. Each of the institutions have committed to implementing EAB's full suite student success management system that we call Navigate. Through this platform, they'll be able to leverage their very own data and insights and also operationalize the equity-based practices and research through tailored workflows as well as analytics. Using all of this in that system, they will be able to have support staff reach out to students, identify those students that need support, whether they need a nudge or additional engagement, to make sure that those small things that can start early don't turn into more broad and complex barriers for them down the road. Also, they'll be creating a coordinated care network. What this does is breaks down those silos across campus so that advisors, tutors, faculty, even financial aid can collaborate together in a unified system, and the students themselves working with those support structures in a shared workspace. Through this, they'll be able to have all of their activities, initiatives, schedules all in one place, recorded, tracked, and assessed. Not only is EAB providing heavily discounted technology to each of the institutions, we're going all in to make sure that it's successful by also providing a dedicated principal consultant. This consultant will be working to facilitate meetings, conduct workshops, provide training, and also pulling in the expertise across all of EAB. We will be staffing a leadership institute, conducting convenings across the year. We want to make sure that we're bringing together all of the elements that are necessary, leveraging our 10 years of expansive expertise and research in student success. That way, our institutions are able to get off the ground quickly and really power their efforts to drive outcomes. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague at EAB, Vice President for Partnerships, Tom Sugar.
Thanks, Toya. Great summary. And congratulations, Milwaukee and Kenosha, Mark and Debbie, Vicki and John. We're so delighted today to be joining you on this momentous, as you said, Mark, but it's certainly true, momentous occasion as the Milwaukee-Kenosha region becomes the first in the country to stake their reputations on this big, audacious goal together. You know, we've already heard about the policies and practices, the equity mindedness training, the change management components, and more that are essential and non-negotiable when it came to choosing this region to do the work and join us in the Moonshot for Equity. But I want to just spend 1 minute focusing on what matters really most, and what I think all Milwaukeeans should be very, very full of pride about today, and that is the quality of your leaders. I like to tell people that when presented with giant and almost intractable challenges, you can often divide leaders into two camps. Those who run from those challenges and problems and hide their heads in the sands and hope it'll all pass over, and those who charge toward them, who are willing to stake their personal reputations on making the difference they can, with doing all they can where they are with what they have, as Teddy Roosevelt once famously said. And you are all blessed to have higher education leaders like the ones you heard today, who are the kinds of leaders who run toward this challenge. They understand that big, difficult challenges that have been around for a long time, including issues relating to equity, systemic racism in our communities, are something that we can only tackle together. And I reflect on many reasons why we decided to call this the Moonshot for Equity. And one of them is, can be captured really in kind of the logo of the initiative itself. It's a replication of the image that the astronauts saw when they orbited the moon for the first time on Apollo 8 and looked back at the Earth. And we think about all the wonderful spin-offs that occurred because of our investments, our public-private partnership in the 1960s and 50s around the Moonshot. And, you think about, advancements in textiles and technology. The word software was coined back then. But the most important lesson that was learned, the thing that stuck most deeply in the minds and souls of the astronauts who traveled out that far, was something, an important lesson that we never ever fully operationalized in this country or on this planet. And that is that when, from the distance of space, it is absolutely clear that we're all in this together. We're all in this together. The Moonshot for Equity finally hopes to sort of finish that goal, to operationalize that learning. And it's powered by leaders like the ones who've spoken today, who understand at the end of the day that it's only through collective action that we're going to be able to bend these curves upward into more success for more students. That today depends on acting with a sense of more we and less me. And that's what you're seeing today across the Milwaukee and Kenosha region. So congratulations to all of you. We look forward to the hard work ahead, and we know that ultimately we will be successful and provide tremendous benefits, not only for your region, but the entire country.
Tom, your comments are so well put, and you've underscored with emphasis so many of the key things. And what a great way to end with such energy, vision, and inspiration. Thank you for your leadership as well. What you've done with EAB, how you've forged this great initiative. We're so fortunate that in the nation, we're the first region to partner with you. And I think you heard amazing things from Dr. Ford, Dr. Martin, and Dr. Swallow, as well as Latoya. Latoya White, I think, really captured many of the particular pieces, stressing across all of our institutions the systemic nature that we need to have, recognizing there's no one silver bullet that makes this easy. It's a constellation of activities. So the concepts of systems, collaboration, togetherness, that's what this region can do. And we really look forward to not being a single institution, but a large region that brings a lot of others on board through example, through practice, and especially through outcomes for our students that make a difference. So stay tuned and watch out. Okay, so with that said, we'll now open our question and answer period. And we, again, would like to encourage the media to post any of your questions about the Moonshot through our Zoom Q&A tab. If we don't get to one of the submitted questions, one of our staff members will follow up shortly with an answer to your question. And you can also find more information on EAB's website at eab.com/moonshot. Once again, eab.com/moonshot. So with that, let's take a look at what we've got in our Zoom. I'll go to the questions. The first question is from Emily Files. What kind of financial commitment is this for the 4 institutions, and how will you be able to maintain that commitment amid budget challenges heightened by the COVID pandemic? I'll take the first shot at that, and then be happy to pass this on to any of the other chancellors or presidents. Collectively, we see this as between the reduced cost and the reduced price that EAB has, which is a significant investment on their part, and the campus institutions here collectively about an $8 million undertaking over probably the next 5 years. Those represent oftentimes commitments that we would have to make in some type of technology, some sort of ways to track, whether it's on the advising front or on some of the other registration or student information system sides of things, a lot of the investments that we would be making anyway. But what this really says is that especially in a time of pandemic, especially in a time of the most significant financial challenges that higher education collectively has faced in decades, if not forever, we think this is the right time. This is the absolutely necessary time to bring about these types of changes in our institution. It's simply unacceptable to do anything less than make these types of investments a top priority for our institutions. It hasn't been easy to get everybody here, but this is something that we feel is an absolute mandate for our students first and foremost. I don't know if any other one of the presidents or chancellors want to add to that. Okay, I think we've got that covered then. All right, next question. I don't see any additional questions. Let me go to the Q&A, go to the chat. We have the question from Emily Files. Okay, I see another question that's come in. You talked about already doing some of the efforts included here. What does this partnership add? Dr. Martin, could you please help address that question?
Oh, absolutely. I think what's really added for us is to have that technical assistance from Dr. Tim Rennick, and we joke we have him on speed dial. We've talked to him so many times. Having that technology that the question was just about, that we know will help move the needle, will make the difference. We've been looking at a lot of software packages that help support the best practice models that we've already put together. So when we looked at EAB and we looked at how we could improve our best practices, we adopted those processes and admissions and registration and onboarding and financial aid and other areas that this technology will support. So we think it's really going to magnify our efforts and really help streamline them. And I think making sure that the other institutions have the same software, that we can communicate, we can break down those barriers, we can have more connections, build more bridges between our institutions through data, and data analytics is going to be really key for us. And that change management is when we're working together on changing our cultures and being ready for the students that we're going to be receiving at our institutions, and we are already receiving at our institutions, and ensuring their success. Those are the sorts of things that really add to the value of this partnership.
Wonderful, Dr. Martin. Thank you so much. The next question, why now? How did this collaboration come about? What I'd like to do is just give the first opening to that and then hand this over to Dr. Ford and then Dr. Martin if she'd like to follow up. The reason why I want to take the first shot at it is because I want to give a shout out to Dr. Ford and Dr. Martin for their incredible leadership that really brought this to the fore. Dr. Ford and Dr. Martin are the goal leads for our Higher Ed Regional Alliance work on college completion. They earlier were able to help procure a $500,000 grant from College Completion America. We were one of 45 regions in the country that competed and only one of 3 that got it. And building on that foundation, they found the partnership with EAB to be hugely important, and reached out and developed this important relationship with Tom Sugar. That's the foundation, but there's much more to it than that. Dr. Ford, could you please build on that?
I would love to. Thank you, Chancellor Mone, and great question about our collaboration. I think this is foundational to the work of the Higher Ed Regional Alliance. We have been working together as 18 colleges and universities, and we are the first 4 of the 18 that are embarking on this new collaboration. But we know that our efforts will align and will support the efforts of the entire region, and will have an impact with our partners in the Higher Ed Regional Alliance. And we were selected as the first region because of Milwaukee's because of our region's track record of improving student outcomes through innovation, as well as our commitment to continuous improvement and shared learning across institutions. Mark mentioned the technical assistance grant we received from Complete College America, and higher ed leaders, faculty, institutional researchers, academic advisors, enrollment management professionals have been coming together to share best practices over the past 2 years. And so we are building on what we have been working on, and we are beginning to see gains. So collaboration is in our DNA here in the Milwaukee region, and we're just taking it to new levels. Dr. Martin?
Well, it was a fateful night that we had dinner with Tom Sugar in Orlando in April, where he shared the initiative Moonshot for Equity, which captured my imagination for sure. Bringing it back then and sharing it with Dr. Ford, who was equally excited for all the reasons that she just mentioned, having all of our 2- and 4-year colleges and universities sign on to the commitment to Complete College America's Game Changer Strategies really helped us on this journey. And then we brought in Dr. Rennick to speak about change management and his success at Georgia State, and we were off and running. So we're very proud to be the first in the nation.
Dr. Ford, Dr. Martin, thank you much. We have some questions from Sari Lesk. Some of them I think have been answered, but let's take a look here. We have I think in terms of how did we select EAB, I think that's been answered. Why the 4 of us? I think that Dr. Ford answered that. And I'm going to move some of these questions together so that Dr. Swallow can address them. Will we be working together on this work, Dr. Swallow, or in tandem? And similarly, are you working independently toward the same goal, or do you have steps that you're taking together and across institutions? Please, John.
Oh, that's a great question. So I would see this as a both and. There are some things that we can do, particularly those Complete College America game changers, for instance. There were examples of using big data to note that when students have 15 credit hours or more consistently, semester after semester, it improves their long-term likelihood of completing on time. So that's one example where we might be doing some of the same things. But there may also be ways in which we need to understand our own campuses better. We all have organizations that can improve in different ways. And for instance, the example I gave about how our Student Financial Services Office has improved, there may be ways that we can share with others how we improved, or it may be that those were just improvements we needed to make that other institutions had already made. So it's a both and. I think we're going to need to understand all of these change management techniques using lots of data across institutions, and we'll need to share all of our ideas and those things that have worked and those things, frankly, that haven't worked. One of the things I take from the Georgia State model is that they really worked at this for 10 years, idea after idea after idea. Not everything worked, but it was the continued commitment to get there, like getting to the moon. That's what it's going to look like. So I don't pretend that this is going to be easy, but it will be a both and, in tandem, and also our own work on each campus.
That's wonderful, Dr. Swallow. Thank you very much. Our second to the last question, I will ask Dr. Martin to respond to. What timeline is in place for achieving your goal? And are any milestones identified at this point?
Right. Well, for us, as you've heard from others, that this is going to be longer than 5 years, probably. We know from Georgia State, it'll be a forever continuous process because even after they've achieved the great success, they continue to look for ways to improve. And that's what we're going to be doing as well. But we're shifting right now. We had our first meeting. We're going to be looking at the next 100 days. What that's going to look like for us. We're going to be designing the necessary support systems and infrastructure to begin this work. And that comes in 3 phases. The first phase is discover, where each institution is going to set priorities based on urgency and our readiness. We'll do that assessment. And then we're going to engage with our stakeholders and our leaders to educate them on the priorities and understand their perspective from the necessary leadership teams and working groups that we need to put together to begin to structure our plan of execution, and finally to actually execute those plans, put those into motion. And then what we'll do is we'll make sure that we review that and make any adjustments as we go along the way. But as you heard earlier from Dr. Swallow, we're going to continue to review that and find ways to keep improving and working together.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. The last question is from Todd McLeese, and it's something I'll ask Dr. Ford to start the answer into. How will you incorporate other institutions in the region as you begin to see results from the Moonshot initiative? Please, Debbie.
Well, thank you, Chancellor Mone, and another great question. I think it is critical that the Higher Education Regional Alliance continue to be involved in the delivery of the initiatives that we have as part of the Moonshot for Equity. One of the goals we have with the Higher Ed Regional Alliance is certainly to close these equity gaps. And so this aligns perfectly with the Moonshot. And a key part is everything is through an equity lens. So as I stated before, we are beginning to see results, but they are certainly not the results that we desire and we know we need for our region. And the Higher Education Regional Alliance meets on a monthly basis. Our goal group actually has a meeting right after this phone call to talk about how do we integrate the Moonshot for Equity into the work of goal number 1, which is to eliminate these equity gaps. And what do we need to do with our partners in K12? What do we need to do together? And we are, this year, as part of our 3rd year of the Complete College America Metro Momentum Pathways Project, which is the technical assistance work, we are building communities of practice with a focus around some of the game changers that we've talked about. And again, these are embedded in Moonshot. So for me, it's about the continuous improvement. It's about continued collaboration, and it's about a shared vision in the role that higher education plays in improving our region.
Wonderful, Dr. Ford. Thank you so much. I'm going to offer an opportunity. We've got a couple more questions that I'd really like us to get to. I know we're over our time. If individuals are interested in continuing on from the media, we're going to answer a few more. in terms of folks that are suggesting this behind the scenes. The folks behind the curtains have said we can provide a little more time if our participants can do that. So I think 2 or 3 more questions might be very worthwhile. They're really great. So the next question from Wayne Miller, is there a marketing plan associated with the rollout of this initiative? What will that look like? Let me just offer the first starting point for this, Wayne. What we have, as you've heard, is a first 100-day plan. It is focused initially on a lot of the activities, a lot of the work that we're bringing our systems and training together around internally. But we've had a communications team working dedicatedly for the last several months on the public work in terms of community-based organizations plan last week that we launched. Today, the national press release, and then we've got some other pieces as we begin to see the plans implemented across our colleges. A lot of this is going to be internal marketing at first, I imagine, for the first 100 days, and then we'll continue to broadcast and talk more externally about this. So I think that's probably a good starting point. So the next question is from Emily Files. How can colleges and universities eliminate completion gaps when there is such segregation and inequality at the K-12 level? So for this one, I think we would go to Dr. Swallow as a starting point, please.
Sure, it's a great question, and it's one I've wrestled with over time. And I keep going back to the example of Georgia State. So Georgia State's an institution that enrolls a highly diverse population, and yet at the end of 10 years, they eliminated race and income as predictors of success while increasing their graduation rates tremendously. So that example just serves to me as a continuing challenge to the mindset that once the equity gaps begin in childhood, there's really nothing to do, that they're going to persist. So it's an example for me. It's a North Star that by doing this work, we can enroll a diverse population from lots of backgrounds and yet help all of them succeed at the same rate. It's true that there are also equity gaps in elementary and secondary schools, and it would be great to work on that. But our focus here today is on the work we can do as higher education to eliminate the gaps when the students arrive on our campuses.
Mark, I'd like to add to that.
Sure, Dr. Ford.
Because I think again, the theme today is about collaboration. And we are very fortunate here in Southeast Wisconsin that we have 3 Strive Together networks, Higher Expectations of Racine County, Building Our Future in Kenosha County, and Milwaukee Succeeds in Milwaukee County. And the leaders and the community partners as part of these networks are focused on cradle to career. And so they are bringing some best practices and ideas of how do we have stronger linkages that help all students from cradle to career be successful with higher education really being in the middle.
Wonderful. I don't know if on this one, I don't know if Tom Sugar or Latoya White would like to add anything. I do have one more question beyond this, but let me pause for a moment and see if Latoya or Tom would like to address what they've seen in terms of some of the ways that we can help build on this vexing issue that there are achievement gaps in K-12. Latoya?
I think Tom was going to start with this one, so I'll let Tom start and then I'll jump in, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Toya. And the only reason I'm sort of anxious to answer it is because I get this question all the time. And in fact, we thought a lot about the right way to begin and design the Moonshot, because clearly there are desperate equity gaps that exist in our K-12 systems. And I know that in many respects, Milwaukee faces some of the worst gaps in the country in K-12. But here's how I think about it. It's an extraordinary thing that students all across the country, students of color, first-generation students, low-income students, are showing up on our college campuses today. They're somehow persevering through all of their challenges. They're summoning the grit to enroll in higher education because they know that they need to, that high school is simply not high enough. And yet, even though we admit them, we fail them. After all of that, the systems that we designed in higher education that were created to serve the needs of a college student that existed 100 years ago today is not the right approach to use with students today. And so I think that there is no low-hanging fruit, first of all, in all this work. It's going to be difficult. But I do think that the students who show up, who are most motivated, who persevered and succeeded, they're our best hope And I hope that by changing the structure of what we do within our colleges and universities and seeing more success for them, that the benefits of that will permeate outward, not only into a more highly trained workforce, but also to signals sent backwardly to their peers, their siblings, others behind them in K-12, and say, you can succeed too. In Milwaukee and in Kenosha, our colleges now are redesigning themselves to really build themselves to change so that we can be successful. So give it a try, have greater confidence. This is a moonshot for equity community. It's our best hope to succeed. And that will have a ripple effect outward. And so I guess I feel like we're starting from a position of extraordinary strength and building from there. But also say that we've added a special component to the Moonshot for Equity called College Greenlight, which is specifically designed to help identify these students, recruit these students, and help enroll these students and connect them with available scholarships in the country and in their community that they may not be aware of. So we're even tackling the access aspects of this as well, which reaches back into K-12 directly. And finally, I'd say, Mark, that during last week's community-based organization stakeholder briefing that we conducted, we had representatives from the school systems in Kenosha and Milwaukee on the call with us. This will take an all-in effort. Our K-12 systems, our community-based organizations, for these students to succeed requires what we call coordinated care networks. And EAB knows a lot about those things. You guys do too. We're inviting all of those leaders to join us in this. We're starting with higher ed, but we're now reaching outward saying, this is the Moonshot for Equity, come join us.
Tom, thank you for that perspective. And I would add, just as a quick example before Latoya weighs in, we did have, in fact, the Higher Ed Regional Alliance and Milwaukee Succeeds K-12 representation focusing on freshmen and sophomores, Black and Brown Male Youth Initiative last week that brought over 50 different regional partners together from K-12 and higher ed. This is exactly the type of partnership with EAB helping quarterback and coordinate a lot of the work that's going to make a big difference. Latoya, any additional thoughts, please?
Yeah, I would just say this is the part that gets me really pumped and passionate about the work, because it's right. And these are the questions that we should be asking to improve something as big and systemic as racism and the inequities that we see. We do have to address it from where it starts all the way through to where it permeates. And so starting with our colleges and universities is just a place to start and lend the expertise that we all bring to bear that's on the phone today. But we will absolutely be leveraging our partnerships and seeking additional collaboration throughout the region with K-12, with community organizations, because it's critical that we're all coming together, because we can't do anything siloed or in a vacuum. We'd be foolhardy to think that. So I'm glad this question was raised, because that's an important angle to look at.
Excellent, Latoya, thank you. So our last question, and truly our last question, is one that I'm going to ask every single person who was a participant who presented earlier, and we're going to go in that same order to address. The question is, will there be any joint conferencing among the 4 Wisconsin institutions involved as a way to share best practices and or better infuse camaraderie? And will this include students from the campuses to play a role in such conferencing implementation? Thanks for all you do in this very important work, Sir G. Well, why I wanted all of us to answer this is I think this is probably the core theme of everything that we're doing. The answer is an emphatic, bold yes. We're tremendously excited. And I think you've been hearing that, but it is about sharing best practices. That's why we can't do this alone. We need to build on, borrow, beg, steal, everything we possibly can, because the issues are so challenging. So that's a starting point. I now would ask Dr. Martin to weigh in, please.
Sure, and thanks, Mark. I think that's a good beginning, is an emphatic yes, and that we've already started to do that. Dr. Ford and I and our team, as part of Goal 1, have already begun the communities of practice in terms of advising and some of the other areas where we've heard from our participants across our institutions that they really want to meet to share those best practices. And now with Moonshot in particular, we'll have a steering committee with members, but we'll be sharing that with our team as well, with Harris, so that they get to hear how we're doing and what the progress is. But certainly on our campuses, between our institutions, we'll be continuing that communities of practice. And I just want to make a quick comment on the last question that was asked is, I work with Dr. Moni and the superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools on an initiative called M Cubed, and that's what we're definitely trying to do is to break down those barriers and make smooth transitions for more students to really look at college as an option, to believe it's an expectation that they in fact can continue and succeed if they do attend college. Many of them don't believe that they have the finances or they have the ability to do so, and we hope that we're going to role model how successful they really can be. And we'll do that through a number of initiatives, through the Strive networks, through Milwaukee Succeeds, but also through M Cubed and Harris. So I think that as we connect with our high school partners and our middle school partners, K through 12, this is really going to be a critical additional partner. But the work, as Dr. Swallow brought up before, is really with us to make sure that we are ready for our students to be successful.
Mark, if you don't mind, I'd just like to add a little national context. Remind everyone that the Moonshot for Equity is a national initiative. Milwaukee-Kenosha region has been chosen as the first region chosen. But we hope to choose and seek out and discover and find and motivate up to 7 regions of this sort. And so the opportunity for collaboration won't just exist and be real across the Milwaukee-Kenosha region, but also across the country as the regions convene together and learn from one another region to region. So we're really standing up a national initiative, and Milwaukee is the first.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Dr. Swallow, please.
Yes, first of all, this is a great question. And I want to point out that one of the advantages of this geographical region, the fact is that we have come to know each other, particularly over the past 2 years with the advent of the Higher Education Regional Alliance. And this work is going to proceed more quickly and frankly in a more accountable way because we know each other and we've already built some trust between the institutions, and our staffs have already started to work together. It's been one of the most exciting things to me about this project. And so while I'm also excited about national collaboration, I can say here that I think that the regional collaboration, even with schools that seem different from the ones we are, offer more of an opportunity for progress than more far-flung collaboration among institutions that seem very similar. I've gained much more myself from this group than I would have from colleagues at other places. I know that. And so I know that there will be more and more sharing among our staffs. And then I look forward to what's going to happen nationally.
John, thank you for your authentic comments. Very heartfelt. Super. Dr. Ford, please.
Well, I absolutely love this question, and I'm so happy that we're ending this time together with a focus on our students. This is why we are doing this. Our students are the future. They are already connecting. What we need to do is catch up with them, and the opportunity to have the collaborations among and with our students, because they are the future leaders. What we need to make sure is that more students have the opportunity. And through these efforts in our collaborations, we will succeed. But it is all about students. Student voices are critically important to the success of this work, and we will continue to engage them as we embark on this 10-year journey of the Moonshot for Equity.
Wonderful. And last comment, Ms. White.
Thank you. I'll just end it to say that we want to make those connections, and we've designed the project with being very intentional about how the institutions will all come together. So we will have task force on each campus working on the different priorities and initiatives through those best practices. We'll have that Leadership Institute. And something that I'm really looking forward to is that it won't just be leadership. It's not going to just be administrators across the board. It's great that the Leadership Institute will bring those leaders together because you need that top down, But working on those task force and really driving those priorities, we're going to bring together the folks on the ground. So it will be a cohort of advisors here and faculty there, lending their expertise and how they're seeing the data shake out and how they're moving those initiatives in their respective areas. So it will be a collaborative effort with a lot of touch points and convenings, but also making sure that it will include administrators, it will include folks on the front lines, and also the voice of the students. So yes, very connected, very sharing of best practices, very collaborative.
Wonderful, Latoya. Thank you. I oftentimes say, you can have presidents and chancellors help start things up, but boy, we got to get out of the way and really let the front line and let students and others own this and make that difference. I want to thank everybody for participating. I want to thank all of our panelists, great speakers, eloquent, absolutely convicted leadership. I'm so proud of our partnership and what we've launched here today. Members of the media, others who've participated, we've kept the attendance up for almost an hour, well beyond what we were planning. I think that shows the importance, the interest, and really the vision of what we're about to undertake here. This is truly ambitious, as has been said before. Bold, hairy, audacious goals really move mountains, and so we've got our BHAG goal here in front of us, and look forward to collaborating. And I hope you heard that. I hope you heard the enthusiasm, the absolute dedication and commitment from the leadership, and the ways that we're going to envelop the work across this region. So if there's any questions that you have after, feel free to convey those. We'll follow up, but I think we answered all the questions that did come in. Thanks everybody, and wish us all the best of luck. We're on it.